Welcome to my video project about Senegal's population. We will be discussing all the implications of its population and how it has affected the country in a good and positive way, and negative. First off, we need to look at where they are in the demographic transition model from their population pyramids. In 2015, you can see that they have many young babies and young children in general. Their population is very young. In 2030, as we can see, their pyramid is becoming more and more like a tower. This can be seen in many different ways. One factor could be that they're educating more and more women. This leads to women being able to enter the workforce and provide for themselves, which leads to women not wanting to have as much children. Another factor could be better health and healthcare systems in Senegal. No longer will they have problems with babies dying from diseases and other things when they're able to have vaccines. This puts them in a transitioning point of their population. They are no longer a third world country, but they're approaching a first world country because of how the pyramid in the bottom is becoming more and more like a tower. Now we can see why the pyramid is becoming more like a tower on the bottom. Because the child mortality rate is very low. It is becoming lower due to better health systems, better health care, and in general, they have vaccines and are able to live longer. This leads to these kids becoming part of the working population and will not end, and mothers will not need to have as many children because they have children that are living long lives. Now, let's talk about their working population, the people 15 to about 65 years old when they retire. As we can see in this graph, that the total employment rate is about 55%. This is pretty good for a country, but it's not very good because there's many people that do not have a job. We can see in the graph in 2006 that the employment rate went down very low, but slowly went back up to 55%. Now the job market seems like it's staggered and there's no new growth. This leads to the younger population looking for jobs to feel frustrated and not be able to find any, so they immigrate and leave their country to find a new place to work. This leads to the population changing because the young people start to leave and the older people stay. This leads to the workforce being very strange because there's less young people, but there's old people. Once those old people retired, there's no young people to replace them. This leads to another employment drop. As we can see in this graph, this shows the poverty rate. There are less and less people in extreme poverty in Senegal. It's been slowly going down. When people are out of poverty, they're able to afford education for all their children and their families, which leads to more educated children and especially women. This is very important because in the future, women who are educated are able to work and have children, but less of them. Also, when you're out of extreme poverty, you're able to afford healthcare for your entire family. When you're able to afford healthcare, your children are able to live through sicknesses that they normally could not live through. This leads to better quality life of all people, and the population continues. But in Senegal, the extreme poverty rate, even though it has gone down, is still very high. 88% live in extreme poverty. When this happens, many people want to leave their country and find a new place to work because either they cannot find a job in Senegal or their job is not giving them enough to support their families. This leads to either parents leaving the country and splitting up families to make more money, or it leads to entire families getting split up and they have to live a new life. This leads to a strange family dynamic in the country, and this does not help an overall population. Here in this graph, we can see Senegal's life expectancy rate. It is about 67 years old. You can see that they're transitioning from a third world country into an industrialized nation. When their population is able to live a little bit longer, they're able to work a little bit longer. Now they don't have children dying, which leads to the country being able to invest in more things. Senegal is becoming more like an industrialized nation because it's getting closer and closer to life expectancy of 80 years old. That is the average for most industrialized countries. Here is a graph of girls to boys in the secondary school system in Senegal. This shows that girls and boys are about even in school, which means that everyone is included and there's no inequality between girls and boys in school. This leads to a more educated population and girls will understand that they can get in the workforce and not just be only useful to make babies. Here we can see Senegal's GDP. You can see how it has ups and downs, which makes it seem like the economy is not very stable in sometimes. It seems like in 2013 it has become more stable. If an economy is not stable and they're not able to export and import goods, then the people are affected too. This will lead to people leaving the country to find a better country to live in. When the GDP is not growing, then there's less jobs and more poverty and less people working. Here is a pie chart of what countries in Western Africa immigrate to Europe the most. Nigeria is first in the graph, and Senegal is second for named countries. This shows that Senegalese people are unable to find work in Senegal and need to go somewhere else. This leads to a change in economy in Senegal, and the population is affected by this. You do not want lots of people leaving your country to find a better place to live. You want to keep some people, of course, so that you have a workforce that is able to contribute to the economy of the country. When only old people stay, then it is not very helpful for the country.